What do you make of Boris Johnson and the vote yesterday?
It was closer than I would have liked, if I'm being totally honest. I think we do have to draw a line, as much as it was a much higher number of rebels than anyone would really be comfortable with, if they're being honest. I think we need to give the opportunity for the PM to move forward now, and I'm thankful actually for some of those colleagues who have come out, although they've been publicly critical, and said we need to now give him the time to make the changes that we've asked for. I think he's talked a good game in terms of policy in the last few days, and I think actually where he has held his hands up and made changes, particularly in number 10, I've seen the tangible impact of those changes. That organisation is running better in the last few months than it has done. So,
what do your constituents say about it?
Bit of both, if I'm honest. I get a lot of emails that say he needs to go. I get a lot of emails that say whatever you do, do not let him go. So as with everything in politics, in life at the minute, it's quite binary from that point of view. Those people who contact you, isn't it? Whether it's Brexit, COVID or whatever, there's always this or that and nothing in between. So mixed, in truth.
Nadine Dorries yesterday said that a divided party can't win elections. Does it worry you that there's fractures in the party and you're going into 2 by-elections?
Yeah, well, big public arguments don't help from that perspective. Governments don't win by-elections. I have no expectation, and we probably raise their own expectation because we have won a couple, but that's not the norm. Typically, we normally get hammered in these things. So I'm not overly worried about that. I think we've got time to pull this thing together. In reality, Labour Party, Conservative Party, broad churches, we never all agree. It's the nature of politics, but certainly we need to contain that into some bit of teamwork and coherence in terms of policy and strategy rather than falling out on the telly.
Do you think that Labour have overhyped Partygate?
Yes, I think there's been a lot of people with a lot of ulterior motives around the PM and a lot of people who've wanted to get rid of him for a long time. I think clearly those problems are largely self-inflicted, and we know that he's made mistakes, and I'm sure he would have done things differently in hindsight. We all make mistakes, so there's a lot of people using that as a reason to oust him that they've been trying to do for a long time. But equally, some of that criticism is valid, and he needs to hold his hands up and make changes.
What would you say to people who believe that Boris Johnson is a liar?
I don't believe that. I think he, and we all know as MPs, I think you get shepherded around your diary in a day. You get told what you're going into and what you're not. You get told what it means. I don't think anybody realistically thinks that the PM does his diary management or room bookings in number 10. He'll have gone to meetings that said thanks staff in garden, and you take that as read. I think there's some failures of staff there actually who've let him down. I think there's some failures of the kind of culture that existed in number 10 that he has to step up and change. But I don't think he's lied. I think he's perhaps not had the full information when he's been asked to answer questions. I think that's probably a fair thing to say. But I don't think he's deliberately misled anybody.
In the reshuffle, if there is a reshuffle, are you hoping for a cabinet spot? Would you take a cabinet spot?
No, I don't want one. I'm the leader in Nottinghamshire County Council. I'm very much enjoying it. I sometimes find this place really frustrating in terms of not having, you can talk forever and not have any levers to do anything. So I'm really enjoying having those decision-making powers on a local level, to be honest.
If you had to describe Boris Johnson in one word, what would it be?
He's an enigma, isn't he? I think he is able to engage with people and communities in a way that nobody else in politics can in our country. And that comes with its pros and cons, right?
Blackford would in a sleaze bag.
In Blackford would, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
There's, as I say, there's lots of people's motives to, and he's not a universally popular character. But there are a lot of people in my constituency, a lot of people in constituencies around the country who have never voted Conservative apart from under Boris's leadership, and I think some of my colleagues would do well to remember that as well.
He's not losing the working classes?
I don't think it's about class in this particular conversation. I think he engages with the man on the street in constituencies like mine in a way nobody else can. There are lots of people who've fallen out with him, and I think it's probably more about your personal experience of COVID, more so than anything. If you've suffered great loss through it, you're probably more emotionally kind of connected to these issues than if you've kind of not had those problems yourself personally. So I think it's probably more about that than class.
Partygate would hurt more if he's been affected.
Well, clearly, if you've had parents who've passed away or you've not been to see parent and all those kinds of things, I can totally understand why that's really, really difficult for people. I've been really lucky that I haven't experienced that, and so perhaps it's less emotionally difficult for me. And I think that's probably the dividing line in this argument more so than people's kind of background or class from that point of view.